Welcome in to the Energy Tech Podcast. Today we're joined by Rene Gamero from Opto22 live at Ignition ICC 2025. Guys, welcome in.
Oh, Jeff, it is good to be here in the heart of Sacramento. I am your co-host, Mike Flores, with the Energy Tech Podcast, right here at ICC 2025. And just the conversations we're having with our guests, whether you're end users, product providers, strategic partners with inductive automation, which is who we have today, Mr. Rene Gamero. Right. He's here in the show with us. Rene, it's great to have you with Opto22.
Thanks.
Man, it's awesome to have you here, man. Finally.
Yeah, well, it took a while, but thank you to Upside Energy Podcast. Pleasure to be. I'm surprised, honored that you wanted me to be on this thing. But
we want you to be on, and here's why. Okay, so a few things. Number one is we recognize that Opto22 is not only a strategic partner with inductive automation.
Yes.
Okay, but you're also a provider of edge products.
Yes.
And an edge line that delivers some great capability to customers regardless of some of the verticals that you're in. So it doesn't matter if water, wastewater, if you're in manufacturing, if you're in supply chain, if you're in power management, if you're in energy, which is why you're even here, and even if you're in material handling. I mean, there's so many capabilities and offerings in Opto22, and that we're going to talk about that for a little bit.
Okay.
But that's why you're here, man. Because
Okay.
we recognize that. So before I do any of that, I really want you to share just with the community, the audience, what you do at Opto22. You seem like the evangelist for the company, but I want to hear from you what you do, and also Opto22's great relationship and pairing with inductive automation.
Okay, great. Well, thanks again. And I'm the Industry 4.0 executive at Opto22. So I'm responsible for a few things that I do, honestly, for the love of the game. These podcasts, there's several times where I noticed that I've explained something in a webinar or in a meeting, and I'm like, I wish I would have recorded that. That would have been 5 people that could really benefit from that. So we're not talking huge numbers, but we're talking enough to where mediums like this are really useful. So I do those, but I also cover directly from an engineering perspective, the Northwest of the U.S., Latin America, and Australia. And that leads really well into ICC because half of the Firebrand winners are Australian this time. So and what I heard from my Australia too, from Cisco, general manager of it there, is that they've doubled their numbers of attendees from Australia. That's a long way to go.
It is, man.
A lot of people drove here.
Yeah.
And so the fact that these guys came, 17 hours to do it it's impressive. So yes, we're their highest level partner for inductive automation.
Yes.
We're a diamond sponsor at this event.
Right.
I can tell you that probably 80% of the customers, prospects that I talk to use or want to use Ignition at some level.
They do.
Especially the ones that are very spread out, the ones that need a type of edge solution. And speaking of edge solutions and energy and oil and gas, I think that the biggest thing that we've worked on over the last couple of years is we've gotten approved by YPF in Argentina.
Wow.
The Opto22 platform is certified, validated for edge computing in oil and gas in Argentina. And because of that, that really opened the doors for us. So now we're everywhere there, and they're like, well, if YPF approved you guys and everyone's moving to inductive automation, it's really been
I think,
whirlwind.
I think you're right. And I think in oil and gas, just been my experience probably for almost 20 years, 18, right? Okay, we'll say. I think what I've noticed is it is what I call the last vestige of a cowboy feel to the industry. And it's not a bad thing. When I say cowboy, I mean that these groups are in the field. They care about their wells. They care about delivering energy. They care about, takeaways for oil and gas, typically crude, light crude, which is, and natural gas liquids, downstream gas takeaways. There's lots of things people don't realize, which is the takeaway of saltwater disposal that happens as a byproduct. And so what has happened is there's still entrenchments of what I call pole response activity that happens out there in the field. And there is now a foothold for edge computing, both, when you talk about like, edge devices that are sitting out there that require us to do lots at the edge where we want to standardize and structure our UDTs. We want to take that data and make it capable so that they can deliver it to a cloud platform sometimes. That's a big thing right now in oil and gas. You're seeing lots of transition, Rene, and I'm going to get your take on that. But before I do any of that, I want to ask you about ICC here, because there's a level up feeling right now for this year.
Yes.
And there's some level up. I'll explain what I mean. Number one is they got their new venue, which is here, right, in the heart of Sacramento, and formerly in Folsom. They've got a bigger expanse. They've pushed out 8.3. There's a level up there with the excitement around 8.3 release. The third one is they brought these Prove It sessions that your team has been a part of, right? And Prove It that came out of Walker Reynolds and the team there at 4.0 Solutions, where they're basically proving it. And in this case, leveraging Ignition with that whole Prove It feeling. And the fourth is us. We're the Energy Tech Podcast. We're here to get the insight from community members like you and others. So it's a real good way to level up your experience here. If you haven't been on the show, there's still a little bit of time left to do that. But I want to get your take. What have you taken away from the conference already? And how do you think that matches to leveling up in your mind?
Well, the joke I've heard a lot of times is, we're not sardining past each other.
Yes.
Right? And that was 700 people last year. This year it's like 1,580, I think is the number.
Yeah.
And you can tell, I was just in one of the large halls. It says, how many is this your first ICC? Of course, half the people raised their hand, but I gave out a literal wow, like loud, because that explains what I've been seeing this week, which is, yes, the usual players and advancing those relationships, being able to finally have the meetings that you've been planning on doing for such a long time.
Right.
And then you have people that are saying, oh, this is my first ICC. I'm looking at Ignition and looking at Opto, and like, oh, that's right. You haven't been here before. This is your first time. So there's so many first-time conversations that now we've really had to pay respect to that.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I'm glad you mentioned you guys, because it's a huge part that to have like podcasts like here at the event. I mean,
absolutely.
That's what people like. Not everyone's going to fork over like all the money to be here for it. It has several people that wanted to make it and didn't have the budget or couldn't travel in time to do it. So the fact that you guys are here and delivering that message is
the other take on that is that while they capture something on the stage in this type of environment on the podcast, you get to really share what you're thinking, because you're not a stage guest. You're not on there, right? You're not just presenting. You listen. We want your feedback. And I think that's a big part of why we like being here. And we get to share that. We share that with inductive automation, with those that are on the show. And it just really generates a lot of conversation,
Yeah.
And, so I'm really interested on that. I do want to ask you, in terms of Opto22, here on the Energy Tech Podcast, we do target, folks that are in the energy space and they're leveraging technologies. Now, we don't do we love to do a deep dive because we love demos. I think that's an appropriate place. But a lot of times you have this mid-level to executive team member, Rene, and they typically have a budget and a project, and they're looking at a proof of concept in the energy space. And sometimes they don't know where to get started. So kind of walk us through, if I'm you're Opto22, and I said, hey, Mike, sometimes I have a foothold with other products, but I want to get away from some legacy. I want to begin at the edge. What do you think Opto22 delivers in the sense of the edge to offer that?
I think the biggest thing is we have these learning center kits already to go. The second thing is our code assist platform. Most of the training that I do for programming is, hey, I'm a Rockwell user. I know, and the training I do is, here's where your button is in Rockwell. Here's where it is in Code Assist. Right. Both equal strength. Some would say, you have your arguments for both. Right. The people I've talked to are saying, they can once they get to know it, Code Assist is more powerful. They have all these flexibilities to it. But for them to actually use it, I would be annoyed too. If I've been using something all my life, and now something is, okay, I can use this and it'll work more for my application, but I have to figure out where all the buttons are. Yeah. I'm probably not going to do it. So I understand where you're coming from. So it's those learning centers and giving that amount of training that isn't how to program ladder logic. It's where's the button?
Yeah,
Where's
yeah.
or that it's called offline changes and it's called online changes, and it's the same type of change, but it's in a different platform. So
Yeah.
what would that be? The art form in each one. So that's how we're really getting to. Once we give people that power,
Yeah.
then all the other edge devices, stuff that they wanted to do, it's in the same container.
Yes.
So with the learning center, it comes with the Ignition licenses, comes with the Codis's license, comes with everything. And the way that we do it, there are no recurring costs. So you have it, you own the hardware, you own the drivers, you own your data. And I think, so just going through the learning center and the training one, it's a slam dunk on how to get started.
Yeah. So let's unbox that for a second, because in energy, and again, it doesn't matter if you're in any one of the value chains in energy, battery storage, data center, solar, wind, whatever that case is. A lot of this is a lot of this is critical infrastructure. Stuff
Yes.
can't stop. It's got to keep going. You talked about offering training.
Yes.
When someone is unboxing, let's talk about Groov EPIC for a second, because I think it's the flagship of
Yes.
Opto22.
Certainly.
So let's talk about the flagship. When we take a flagship product, let's walk us through just, hey, Mike, when you get your hands on one, it's not just a training element. It's not just code assist, but you're getting the power of two things. You're getting the
Yes.
power of logic control, and you're getting the power of that industrial PC.
Yes.
Right? So you're getting that together. So walk us through what that is like from the unboxing perspective with that and the flexibility.
So it's IPC plus PLC plus HMI is what I've heard.
Yeah.
And when someone described it that way, I'm like, that's exactly what it is. And you look at it back in the days when we were making our PCs,
Yeah.
you bought the motherboard, you bought the PC, and then you bought whatever cards you wanted. You bought your, NVIDIA card that was too expensive then.
Right.
But in this case, for us, we buy the chassis, you buy the power supply, you buy the CPU, and then
Yes.
whatever modules you want. So it's as simple as that. There's no
Yes.
special connector, there's no special cable, there's no RJ45, HDMI,
Yes.
USB. I mean, these are all things that we have 3 of each in our kitchens right now.
Yes.
So that's how easy it is to get started with that. Now, so you can imagine it's like in the same way that you were delivered a PC before,
Right.
if you weren't making it on, because if you made it on your own, you'd still need to put an operating system with
Right.
it. No, well, we have the operating system on it there. That's our firmware, and that runs on Linux. And in that, now you have all these, you have the Codisys application running
Yes.
there, you have Ignition running there, you have Node-RED,
Yes.
you have Groov View, you have Sparkplug MQTT configurations, you have an OPC UA server, so you have all of these applications that run in parallel.
Right.
So my favorite part is that people are buying this to serve one application, and they're saying, okay, well, it was a close call, but you won, and now you can get to install it on
Yes.
on this on this well pad. And then we get a call 6 months later, and they go, okay, well, we're expanding this area. What kind of PLC do we need to buy to be able to communicate with your edge device? And we tell them the good news. You already have it. You bought it.
Yes.
It's inside. You just need the I/O card to add it, and that's when the light bulb goes on. So it's not till after the 6 months after the first sale that people realize I bought a platform.
Yes.
I bought my IPC PLC HMI for the future. And that's another thing too, is what's helped me so much in oil and gas recently
Yeah.
is that I can tell them we'll make this form factor and functionality for the next 20 years.
Yeah, and I think people miss out on that, Rene. I think they don't get, I think you just uncovered that for lots of customers. And I always break it down in 3 areas, okay? So when I think of Groov, when I think of the products and the flagship products, I think of 3 main things it solves when you're talking about operations, when you're talking about if you're an automation tech or you're an instrumentation electrical person that's been relegated to, man, I got to upgrade my field. I have lots of things to do. 3 areas. I always think of it in terms of cost, complexity, and cybersecurity. That's it. Like they frame in either one of these, and here's why. If I'm in the field, whether it doesn't matter what part of the energy chain I'm in, it doesn't matter if I'm on the plant floor, even if you looked at it in manufacturing, I look at, okay, is it safe in terms of cybersecurity? And we'll work backwards. Cybersecurity. Then you have complexity in the middle. Complexity. You already talked about and hit on. Hey, Mike, these guys, or people, you have connection with Code Assist. You have OPC UA. You've got some great connectivity that already belongs there. And then in terms of cost, I think it rivals lots of your other legacy. I call them legacy platforms because they still exist. So cost-wise, you're going to win, right? So kind of walk through each one of those in terms of the flagship. And then also, I'm hoping that we can target Rio for a minute, but in terms of the flagship, in terms of cost, complexity, and cyber, where do you see that?
So cost, I think it's pretty easy to imagine all of the big lines, the Rockwell, Siemens, Schneiders. They all have their micro PLCs, and then they have their like smaller PLCs, and then they're kind of not top of the line PLCs, but then they're like general PLCs.
Yeah.
And then they have their top of the line, like 50,000 fiber, like hot redundancy, blah, blah, blah.
Right.
So what we've seen in a lot of applications is, so they'll sign a contract, and then slowly they're like, oh, but we need to solve this very simple issue. It's a cell modem, and then local PoE, and to just sending strings to these message boards.
Yeah.
And it's something, and then we start crawling our way out of that to the point to where, functionality wise and price wise, we hit all of them except the $50,000 redundant PLCs. We're hitting all of those, plus the ability to be the edge device for them.
Right.
So, and so for price wise, that's where you can imagine price wise that we are, from the lower to the next to the top tier.
Yeah, but even if you're not hitting the top tier, I do want to mention this in oil and gas, because a lot of times you get into PHA, or you get into these times where you're looking at SIL ratings. And I mean, sometimes, Rene, in fact, 99% of the time, you can push that aside because it's not a requirement, which means that leaves room for all of that, and you're overthinking your infrastructure.
I laugh because just had this conversation at the oil and gas trade show that I was at in Argentina last week, and in it they basically said they went through the SIL kind of learning curve.
Yep.
And what I mean by that is they have to, because you have SIL, you have all of these new maintenance requirements to maintain and make sure it stays SIL.
Right.
So they realized it's like, okay, so I put SIL in. I put SIL in because everyone was putting SIL in, but now my maintenance costs are this much.
Absolutely.
And then they're like, for expanding, they're like, well, we really only need SIL here. This isn't a critical
Absolutely.
part. But not even with that, where you do need SIL, we'll talk to the SIL PLCs, and we'll talk to the hot redundant.
Absolutely.
So we can live in that space concurrently. So that's
So I think you're kind of verifying my point and thinking about that. That it's totally viable and doable there, and that's in terms of cost. And what I think about complexity, you talked about this and briefly kind of brushed on it. If you can target this a little bit, to me, it's look, Mike, we've got device items we can add into the flagship product. So if we're talking about communication, we're talking about expanding our I/O, we're talking about adding features. I think that's a big capability in terms of that flexibility, in terms of when I'm looking at not just push aside cost, but just looking at complexity. Like, I can add these, and it's not complex to do so.
Yeah, I think I find it. I still have to remember that in other companies, you have to buy a new license, you have to buy a new package, you have to buy a new platform. When for us, it's like, oh, I need new X sensors.
Right.
You buy the I/O card, you slap it on, and you can do it while it's hot too. So you don't even have to power anything down. It auto discovers and says, oh, I found a new card. And then you're off to the races. Programming Code Assist, it'll hot recognize it. You can do your reconfiguration, re-download, and it doesn't skip a beat and does that. And there's no additional cost except the physical cost of the hardware.
Right.
So as far as complexity is, that's and it's further reduced with us because we have all of these software packages already loaded on the device.
Yeah.
I'd say most customers use 10%, a different 10% of our functionality in all of their projects. So there's just so much, but that's how it's delivered. Because at the end of the day, there's so many more tools inside the Opto platform that's included that you could be using that you just don't have time to get to.
No, I think you're right. And I think the last part I always see, which is cybersecurity. And one of the key things now, naturally, intrinsically, when you're dealing with MQTT, you do have that. A lot of times it's set to outbound port only.
Yes.
You've got some capabilities for remote activity. And so just kind of speak to that for a second, because I think that's already I call it a settled topic, but
Yeah.
really it's settled already in terms of cyber,
For us, we give this, and go ahead, I'll make sure to share it with you so you could share it with all your listeners. But we have this one survey of 72 questions that we did for a customer, and we were filling these out like once a week for different companies as
Right.
IT departments. And finally, we said, well, this one has every question and then some. So we answered it, took all the PII off, and then
Right.
kept that. And that's the one I gave out to everyone to answer cybersecurity questions. And even this was the case at a national oil company,
Yeah.
sitting there, meetings for hours, and then the IT guys just sitting in the corner. And I'm like, I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen. And it's like some huge Fortune 500 companies have accepted Opto's IT cybersecurity posture, but it was just quiet the entire time.
Yeah.
And at the end of the meeting, they're like, okay, well, does IT have anything to say about it? And I'm like,
Come
closing
on.
one eye. And
Yeah.
he's like, this document answers more questions than I had.
Yeah.
Whew.
Awesome.
So the point of view for us is we designed this. The EPIC platform was built from scratch.
Yeah.
So because of that, we're able to put cybersecurity around it from the beginning. So no default passwords, segmented networks, and
Yes.
any OT cybersecurity company will tell you that's the majority of breaches covered right there.
Right.
Then on top of that, firewalls, LDAP integration, single sign-on. So with all of those tools already built into the platform, that's another one. So it's like the old days of like buying a PC. It's like buying an old PC, but with no bloatware on it.
Yes.
All the stuff's included for free, and now you have all the cybersecurity walls up, so you're not exposing yourself
Yeah.
unknowingly.
Yeah, and that's good to know. So Rene, we talked a little bit about the flagship, and in terms of energy, you were mentioning to me you've got a really great project with a client. One of your recent case studies, I guess we'll call
Yes.
it that. I want you to share a little bit about that, because I think folks need to hear this for a bit. But we don't have to talk
Yes.
about it completely, a big old case, but let's kind of break that down just for a little bit. Hey Mike, here's what this case was. Here's what we solved. Here's how Opto came in and did this. And here's an outcome.
Yeah, distributed energy power plants is
Yeah.
basically what it is. Where it started was in RE Plus a few years ago. I went and visited, and it was just a research mission, expecting to find different PLCs and IoT equipment all
Right.
over the place. I found everything but our common competitors there.
Yeah.
So on that, we've had this project since 2016, and all it's about, I'd say, close to half a gigawatt of production, PV
Okay.
production. It's throughout the country of Chile. It's divided up into about 35 different power sites.
Right.
And it started with Opto Gear just being able, their choices were buy the new equipment that is IT enabled and has all these, even though it's closed software, all of these alarming features and remote control features,
Right.
or pay a few $1,000s for an Opto equipment for each location. It ties to everything, sends it back up to one central location.
Right.
So I thought it was perfect because I have friends in wind, I have friends in electrical and battery, but this one, the way that we wrote this, we wanted to write it so it addresses all distributed energy power plants. So
Right.
your problem is they're all exactly the same and they're all a little different.
Yes.
So in that, this is the one hardware that'll make it to the top layer, make them look all exactly the same. They're all going to have trackers. They're all going to have inverters. They're all going to have the same types of sensors.
Right.
So in that case, it's all about uniformity to remote power plants. And so I could share that comfortably with my wind friends,
Right.
my battery friends, because at the end of the day, that remote energy generation, you just want to be able to see it smoothly.
Wow. And so if someone wants to read up on the case study, they can go to Opto22
Yes.
to the website, pick that case study and talk about it.
Yes.
And you know what, Rene? I want to keep you a lot longer, but they're looking at me like you can't do that.
Yeah.
but
That guy's
man,
looks really angry.
I want to keep you to two things. Number one is we're going to have you back, on another podcast, because we really
please.
want to talk a little more about Opto22, not just flagship, but Rio implementation there. We see a lot of value there, and I think our customers would and listeners would appreciate that. And you know, second is we're going to definitely share some links for
Yes.
Opto22. We've got to do that. You know, and what I'm hearing from you, if I'm right, Opto's got the training.
Yes.
You know, they've all sorted out already cost complexity and cybersecurity. And if you have a POC, you can get to Opto22 on their site,
Yes.
get some questions answered, and talk about a simple kit and some training. Is that right? I
Yeah,
mean, that
well,
kind of bundle that?
And on top of that, we didn't talk about this before, but I'd be happy to offer a discount for the Upside Energy. Well, make sure we'll give you a discount code so people that are watching can have that.
There you go.
Either the in-person training or the hardware.
Look at that. They heard discount code and people started looking.
All these
There we go.
hits.
So yeah,
My
we'll
phone's
include
blowing up.
that here. And once again, Rene, awesome to have you, man. Finally, and we've got to go. And it's great talking to you. What a good conversation with Opto22.
Thanks for having me.
Yes, Rene Gamero, Opto22. I'm your co-host, Mike Flores. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the Energy Tech Podcast and look out for those links.